Hey, welcome. If you're new to this channel, then massive welcome. I'm Pam Obasa, and in this video, I'm going to be walking you through just my process for how I launched one of my latest memberships, one of my subscriptions, and took it to around 10K per month in roughly 3 months without any paid ads. So if this is something that you have been wondering what to do or how to do it, I'm going to be giving you the goods in this video. Not only that, I'm going to be doing Q&A in the comments as well. So make sure that if you have questions, make sure you post it there. So welcome. On this channel, I talk all things passive income, recurring revenue, social media. All of these things are my bag. So if you like that kind of stuff, then I want you to make sure that you've subscribed to this channel because it helps us to grow. So I'm Pam Obasa, and just a bit of backstory. If you are returning, by the way, you probably know this, but just a quick few seconds for those of you who are joining me for the first time. So about 1.5 years ago, I lost my husband and my entire life changed. And prior to that, my business was mainly based around high ticket coaching, which I absolutely loved, still love and still do. But what happened when I went through that big loss, which, obviously we are still recovering from, is that I couldn't coach. I didn't want to show up. I didn't want to record any videos. I just wasn't online. I disappeared. And because of that, my income plummeted. And that is just the truth. That's what happened. My income plummeted. And there was one thing that saved my business, and that was recurring revenue. At that time, we didn't actually have much recurring revenue. I'd never really paid any attention to recurring revenue because honestly, I loved high ticket. I loved high ticket selling. I loved working with high ticket clients, and I really loved high ticket money. Just to be honest with you, it just made so much sense to focus on what works, and high ticket was working. And it wasn't until I was forced to step away from my business that I realized the importance of making sure that you have a foundation. Now, moving forward, the only thing that I really focus on, as well as all the other stuff, the high ticket, I make sure that we do recurring revenue. So in this video, I want to just walk you through, what I did and, how I set up my recurring revenue streams. So at the point of recording this video, we have 4 recurring revenue streams of income. So that means that we have 4 different businesses, if you like, because that's really what they are. They are 4 different businesses within the same industry, but each of them is geared towards recurring revenue. And I want to talk to you about one specific one in this video. So how did I start? So I started this specific recurring revenue stream. Let's call it a membership for those who, need a name for it. I started this membership because when everything happened and my income plummeted, I had this big aha moment. And that was 1, I didn't want to work anymore, to be quite frank. And 2, even if I was going to go back to work, which I knew I would one day, I just didn't want to do business like I did before. And one day, after, trying to come back to work and failing and I knew that I needed to take time out to grieve, I just really felt God speak to me and just say, Pam, that's because you have the wrong business model. You don't have any recurring revenue. And so I spent some time and I looked back at all of the business models that I had tried before I started high ticket selling. And I realized that the very first thing I did when I started my brand, The Lucrative Lady, was actually a membership. And so I remember God taking me back to that and just reminding me of what that felt like. And I had let that go. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is crazy. If I had kept that going, then I wouldn't be in so much trouble financially. And, the business as I knew it would kind of still be standing. And so God led me to that. And I reviewed back because that business model was still going on, even though I had done nothing to it, I hadn't paid any attention to it. But because it was recurring revenue, we still had members in there. We obviously still had content. And it just really gave me a new lease of life. And so I knew that is something working, and that is something that I wanted to teach others to do. And so I set up this new membership to teach others exactly how to do that. Having that as my proof of concept really just gave me so much confidence because I wasn't just teaching from thin air. It was something that not only, have I done, but it was something that had kind of ran itself. It just brought passive income. I had forgotten about it, but the money was still coming in. But it brought passive income. And so it just really, really validated that this is something that not only do I need to focus on moving forward, but something that I ought to teach others. I also have a free gift for you. We have an amazing gift called the Recurring Revenue Workbook. So those of you who are watching this and you're thinking, how do I create something like this and where do I get started? We have a workbook. So it's not just a checklist. It's an actual workbook that helps you to determine determine what you're going to be doing, the price points, how you're going to be doing it. It is amazing, and it's going to be linked right below this video. So then I came to, how do I create content for this new membership that I was going to create, and what was it going to be, the price points, the marketing. So let's talk about the content first. So when it came to creating the content, I actually chose not to create any content until I had sold this new thing. So the very first thing I did when it came to content was I just decided on recording a welcome video, and that's literally all I did. I recorded my welcome video for the community, and then I used AI to map out my content ideas, and this is all I had. I didn't have a business, I didn't have a membership, I didn't have anything for people to come into. All I had was proof of concept and validation and my sheer confidence to sell this thing. And so I had my paper with my ideas, let's call it a business plan, and of course a welcome video that I knew that people would come into. And I set myself a task of, Pam, when you enroll your very first member, you will start creating content. And of course I had the content mapped out already using AI. So I want to talk about the marketing of this before I move forward, because I think that is probably the most critical part of this. So as I mentioned, I had created, a skeleton of my content on paper. I hadn't recorded anything except my welcome video, but my goal was to market. I didn't want to waste time creating all this content and nobody would come into this thing. Now, I want to pause here and say that we have other memberships that I've done the opposite, where I have created content and people have come in. So it works that way. But this specific thing, I knew that I needed to sell it first because of the price point, which I'll talk about next. So let's talk about the marketing and how I marketed it. Earlier in the introduction, I mentioned that I marketed this thing with no ads. I haven't run any ads until today. We still haven't run any ads. We are moving into ads now, moving forward, but there's still no ads to this thing. So this is literally from my email list. The very first thing that I did was that I went back to my past clients. I knew that what I'm about to teach you is the bee's knees. I knew that it was the game changer because I had seen how it had impacted my own life and my own business and literally saved my butt. And I had also seen that my audience primarily, I work with a lot of women. I do work with men, but majority of women who have a job and doing business as a side hustle, majority of these women also have kids. They're just like me. They don't have time to mess around. So I knew that they needed this. So I had my pain points dialed in. I had my messaging dialed in. And of course, I had a brilliant solution, even though I hadn't created it yet. So the very first thing I did was I went to my past clients, not just any client. I looked through my roster of clients that I have ever had, and I literally thought about who have I enjoyed working with. That was my first point, right? It wasn't about the money. I wanted to do something that brings me joy. So I started with who have I enjoyed working with? And I made a list of everybody who I enjoyed working with. And then from that list, I whittled it down even further to who from the list that I enjoyed working with, who actually did the work. Because that's the other thing. I didn't want to work with just anybody just because I like them. I love them all, but I wanted to work with people who I knew would put in the work as I teach, because I knew that if they put in the work, they would get results. And that's really what I want. I want them to do well. So I then created a secondary list of which included everybody who I had enjoyed working with in the past and who got results. And then the third step from that was that I would then approach these people. So I send them out messages, I send emails to them, and I send them DMs because these are people who I had a relationship with. And I invited them on a call. So I had a call with each and every one of them. The calls were very short, lasted about 15 minutes, and I pre-sold this specific membership. And I got about, I think 95% conversion. Literally, I was getting yeses. And that really is the power of relationships and the power of, when people know you and they know what you can do and you've done it before. These are people who, like I mentioned earlier, they've gotten results. These are people who I genuinely enjoyed working with. So we had a great relationship. So if you're thinking where to start, that is always a really, really great place to start. So they all said yes, mostly anyway. I think maybe one of them said, tell me the next round or something along those lines. So let's say 95% conversion, most of them said yes. And so when they said yes, I was like, okay, now Lord, how do I teach this thing? Then I started to actually create the content. Now, when creating the content, because I mentioned earlier, I had already mapped out the content previously. So what I did was I actually started to teach live. So there are three key things that made this specific membership, I think, special. One was the hand-holding. The second is gamification. We made it fun. So when you come into the platform, it's a fun platform. You earn points for watching videos, for clicking, for downloading things. The points lead to prizes. It's really, really beautiful. And the third thing is that I didn't bombard people with the long pieces of content. So I really focused on the content that we would create. I made sure that it was bite-sized. So a lot of the videos are like 5 minutes long, 7 minutes long, 3 minutes long. So it was all very straight to the point. And because of this, it really helped people to feel like they're getting results. They're moving forward faster. And so this was part of the thing that made the community special. So, as I mentioned, I launched to my, to a very, very small community. I got a ton of yeses. And to start off with, I think we started with roughly 15 people, starting with the very first time I spoke to people about this. So we started with that initial group of people. And then once they started, a month later, I wanted to expand a little bit more. I still wasn't running any traffic. I still wasn't running any ads. But what I did was that I created a very simple presentation, which I started to promote to my email list. And this brought in another group of people. I think another 5 people, then another 3, then another 5. And, it just kept growing every time I ran the webinar till we had around just, 35 people or so roughly in the community. Again, no ads. I didn't want to run any ads just yet because, well, number one, I wasn't ready for traffic, to be honest with you. I had just come back to work from, everything that happened, losing my husband. I just didn't have the mental space to faff about with Facebook ads. And I knew that I also wanted proof of concept, to make sure that this thing works before I start to put money into it. Once I got that group of people, I started to work with them and meet with them. And I was the head coach, and I have another coach as well, still working with us. Now, let me talk about the price point. This specific membership is priced at $297 per month, which is quite high ticket. So if you do the math, 35 people times $297, you can see that it's just over 10K per month. Now, the numbers does fluctuate. Of course, people go in and people come out and all of those things. But doing this and hitting that number in about 3 months or so, honestly, it just made me feel so validated. I can't even explain how amazing it just feels to know that I can step out of my business, take time out to spend time with my boys. I mean, at the time of recording this, my son tomorrow has his 11 plus exams. And those of you in the UK, you know that this is a very serious exam. And those of you who are not in the UK, this is a serious exam. So I've literally taken the entire summer off my business to spend with my son to help prepare him for the exam. And if I didn't have this business model, I wouldn't have a business. I would not have a business. So I want to talk about some of the challenges that I have faced because I think that that's really important for you to know. And of course, I also have a free gift for you. We have an amazing gift called the Recurring Revenue Workbook. So those of you who are watching this and you're thinking, how do I create something like this and where do I get started? We have a workbook. So it's not just a checklist. It's an actual workbook that helps you to determine what you're going to be doing, the price points, how you're going to be doing it. It is amazing and it's going to be linked right below this video. So I had a number of challenges actually whilst creating this. Number one was trying to figure out how much content do I need in this thing? I had to figure it out, and that's why I decided on doing it my own way. I remember thinking to myself, Pam, what would you like? And I'm not the type of person who likes really long pieces of content. I like bite-sized stuff. And so I knew that I wanted to give my audience bite-sized things. The other challenge that I faced was also what tool to use and how do I keep people in and retention. And that's why we went with gamification. I remember spending so much time looking for, how do I gamify this thing? How do I make people feel like this? Building your business is fun. Making money is fun. How do I reward people for taking action? And I tried a ton of things and I bought so many different tools and none of them worked. We ended up, yes, with a tool that we do like, but I ended up actually putting in a lot of gamification ideas, which I use AI to create, to be honest with you. And it has worked incredibly well for us. The other challenge that I had is, of course, marketing, marketing. It was, how do I feel this thing? And I feel like right now I'm only just answering that question. As you know, and as I mentioned at the earlier stage of this video, video, I went down the narrow route of going to the people that I know. So I went to my warm and hot audience first. Now we are going into the next phase of actually marketing this thing and bringing in a cold audience. And I'm going to be doing that primarily through content creation and ads. So I'm going to be using a ton of YouTube. So you're going to be seeing a lot of videos of me creating content around this stuff, a lot of reels, and of course running ads. And I'm going to be recording a ton of videos as well, just showing you what I'm doing to fill, my various memberships. So if you're not already subscribed to this channel, go ahead and subscribe and follow the journey. And of course, take action. I'd love to see how you are doing as well. But yes, marketing is a big thing, and I highly recommend that you follow, the exact same steps. And so you'll notice that in this video, I'm sharing with you our workbook. That's one of the ways that I'm going to be marketing, sharing a workbook and using it to generate leads. And then this leads to hopefully people, getting value and then, seeing the need for our various memberships. So if you're thinking about doing this, I really want you to make sure that you've paid a lot of attention to how you are going to be marketing this. And if you're not sure, stay subscribed to this channel, because I'm going to be teaching a ton of that. Now, finally, I want to wrap up this video by talking about my next steps. Now, you've probably guessed it, but my next step is, of course, scaling these memberships using Facebook ads and Instagram ads and Google and all of that good stuff. The other next step is actually we have a ton of recurring revenue ideas that I'm so excited to bring out. Our plan is literally to model what we have achieved in this industry in other industries. And really, that's what I love about business. When you figure something out, you literally use that same model and you think about other industries that you can replicate it in. And so the next industry that I'm going to be going in is the education industry. So again, on this channel, I'm going to be charting my process and my progress through other industries that I'm going to be doing the same thing in. And so if you are subscribed, you will be able to hopefully follow me on that journey. Now, last but not least, I want you to comment below this video and tell me, what would having a successful membership look like for you? Like, what would it do for you? How would it change your life? Tell me in the comments. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm going to be in the comments responding to them. So make sure you ask and I'll respond. Thank you. God bless. Before you go, make sure you check out this video.